Hello, my friends. Have you ever felt your body trying to tell you something in a whisper? A subtle shift that you almost brushed off as nothing? We all have, haven't we? A little ache here, a sudden chill there. We often think it's just part of life. But what if those whispers aren't random? What if, for our parents, our spouses, or even for ourselves in our golden years, they are part of a much more significant story? What if I told you that some of the most innocent changes, like feeling a little colder or sounding a bit quieter, are often the very first signs of life's final chapter? Shocking research, and my own clinical experience, confirm that 99% of seniors show a handful of these quiet warnings about a year before they pass. And the true nightmare here is that they are tragically and completely easy to ignore. Now, I know what many people think. Oh, that's just part of getting older. But as a doctor who has sat with hundreds of families through this sacred journey, I am here to tell you with absolute certainty. That is a dangerous assumption. These signs are not random complaints. They are a language. A very specific language the body uses when it begins to prepare for its final rest. And today, we are going to learn how to understand it. This isn't theory from a textbook. I'm talking about real people. I'll never forget a wonderful gentleman, a patient of mine named Michael. His daughter mentioned it to me in passing. "Dr. Evans, Dad's just gotten so fussy about the cold lately." They thought it was a new quirk. In hindsight, we realized his body was sending clear, desperate signals months before his heart began to fail. They were a loving, attentive family. They just didn't know how to read the signs yet. That's why I made this video. We won't just list these 5 signs. I will walk you through why they happen, and share simple, compassionate things you can do right now for free to provide comfort and dignity. And please, I urge you to stay with me until the very end. The 5th sign is the one most often mistaken for simple sadness or depression, but understanding it, truly understanding it, could change the entire quality of your loved one's final months. The information in that last section is important. So before we begin, I truly want to know how many of us have sensed something like this. If what I've just shared feels familiar, if you've ever seen these subtle shifts in a parent, a spouse, or a dear friend, please take a moment to comment a simple yes below. It's not just for me, it shows others in our community that they are not alone in this experience. Okay, let's get started. Alright, let's begin with the first sign. Sign number 1. Increased sensitivity to temperature and physical sensation. We often dismiss this one with a well-meaning chuckle, don't we? We see our mother wrapped in a thick afghan in the middle of May, and we say, "Oh, Mom's always cold now, she needs another blanket." Or we give our father a gentle pat on the arm, and he flinches, and we think he's just gotten a bit grumpy in his old age. We see these as simple quirks, harmless changes. But in my experience, this is often where the body's first, most important whispers begin. It's a profound signal that is far too often misunderstood. So let's talk about what's really happening under the surface. This isn't in their imagination. As the heart, the body's powerful engine, begins to pump a little less vigorously over time, the circulation of warm, oxygen-rich blood naturally slows down. And where does it slow down the most? In the places farthest from the engine. The hands, the feet, the tips of the fingers and toes. On top of that, our skin, which was once our best insulator, begins to thin with age. It loses that little layer of fatty tissue that used to keep us warm and cushioned. Think of the body like an old, wise house in the middle of a long winter. The house knows it only has so much firewood to last until spring. So, what does it do? It makes a smart decision. It concentrates all the heat in the most important rooms. The kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, the vital organs. And it allows the less used rooms, like the guest bedrooms or the hallways, to grow cold. That is precisely what the body is doing. It is brilliantly conserving its precious, limited energy for the functions that matter most for survival. This is the core reason for those physical symptoms that can be so baffling. That constant, deep-in-the-bones chill they feel, even when you think the room is perfectly warm. It's the result of that internal thermostat just not being as efficient anymore. And this is also why their sense of touch can become so exaggerated. When the skin is thinner and has less circulation, The nerve endings are more exposed and more sensitive. A familiar wool sweater, one they've loved for years, can suddenly feel unbearably scratchy, like sandpaper against their skin. Sandpaper. Imagine that feeling. A cool breeze from an open window that you might find refreshing can feel sharp and painful to them. A simple touch can feel like a jolt. This brings me right back to Michael, the 79-year-old Marine I mentioned earlier. Here was a man who was as tough as they come. A man who used to brave crisp autumn evenings on his porch in just a light jacket. His daughter told me that over the course of a year, this changed completely. Inside his own home, with the heat set to a cozy 75 degrees, Michael would be layered in thick socks, a sweater, and multiple blankets. And still he'd shiver and say, "I just can't get warm." He began to wince at a simple pat on the shoulder. His family was puzzled, and honestly, a little frustrated. They thought he was just being difficult. It wasn't until his diagnosis of advanced heart failure that the full picture became clear. His body had been telling them, in the clearest language it could, that his circulation was slowing down. It was one of the very first and most significant signs of his body's transition. So, what can we do? What is the compassionate, helpful response? It's actually quite simple, and it doesn't cost a fortune. First, provide targeted warmth. A safe, modern heated blanket can be a source of immense comfort. You can find excellent ones for under $40 at stores like Walmart or on Amazon. Second, pay attention to fabrics. Switch out any scratchy wools or synthetic blends for softer, more breathable materials like fleece, bamboo, or simple, soft cotton for their clothing and bedding. These small adjustments can make a world of difference. But the most powerful action you can take is to change your own response. It is to stop dismissing their feelings. When they tell you they are cold or that something hurts to the touch, the most healing thing you can do is listen. And validate them. Look them in the eye and say the simple words, "I understand." Let's find a way to make you feel warm and comfortable. In that moment, you are doing more than just addressing a physical symptom. You are offering dignity. You are offering care. You are speaking their language. If providing this simple kindness makes sense to you, if this idea of deep, attentive care resonates with you, please take a moment to comment with the word comfort below, because ultimately, that is what this is all about. Sign number 2. Persistent fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. Now, let's talk about the second sign. And my friends, this one is so important because it is so profoundly misunderstood. This isn't the kind of tiredness you feel after a long day of playing with the grandkids. This isn't something that a good night's sleep or a strong cup of coffee can fix. We're talking about a bone-deep, pervasive exhaustion that never seems to lift. And the most common and perhaps most painful mistake we can make is to see this as a sign of laziness or depression or a lack of trying. It is none of those things. It is a fundamental shift in the body's entire economy of energy. Let me explain what is happening on a physiological level. The body, in its infinite wisdom, knows that its resources are becoming limited. So, it begins a process of redirecting all its remaining fuel. All the energy is being meticulously conserved and rerouted to the most essential, life-sustaining functions. The steady beat of the heart, the gentle rhythm of breathing, the quiet work of the brain. There is simply very, very little energy left over for what the body now considers non-essential tasks. Things like showering, folding laundry, making a meal, or even carrying on a long conversation. As we age, it's true that our metabolism naturally slows down. Our ability to extract energy from the food we eat can decrease. But for someone in their final year, this process is dramatically amplified. It's like they are living on a strict energy budget, and they have to make choices every moment of the day. This is the core reason behind the symptoms we see. This is why they might start declining your invitations to go out to lunch. It's not because they don't love you. It's not because they don't want to see you. It's because the energy cost of getting dressed, getting in the car, and navigating a noisy restaurant feels, to them, like running a marathon. They simply do not have the fuel for it anymore. I think of a dear patient of mine, Carol. She was a vibrant, 74-year-old woman who was truly the heart and soul of her church community. She was always the first to volunteer, always organizing bake sales, always singing in the choir. Over a few months, Her friends noticed she was pulling back. She skipped rehearsals. She passed her volunteer duties to others. When they'd call, she'd often say, "Oh, I'm just worn out today." Her friends were deeply worried. They thought she must be suffering from a terrible depression. But in reality, her heart was working overtime just to keep up, a condition that had been quietly progressing. Her body was making a choice. It was choosing to keep her heart beating over keeping up with her social calendar. That profound fatigue was her body's primary symptom. So, how can we help? The answer is to work with the body, not against it. First, break tasks down into tiny, manageable steps. Instead of saying, "Let's get you ready for the day," which can sound overwhelming, try saying, "Let's just focus on washing your face for now. We can rest after." Prioritize connection over activity. Understand that sitting together and watching a favorite old movie on television requires almost no energy from them, but it provides immense emotional comfort and connection. It fills their tank, instead of draining it. The biggest and most loving shift you can make is in the questions you ask. It's time to stop asking, "Why are you so tired all the time?" That question can carry an unintentional hint of judgment. Instead, start asking, "I can see you're feeling really tired today. What is one thing I can do, right now, to help you feel more comfortable?" That question is an offering of pure support. If you believe in the power of conserving precious moments over pointless tasks, if you understand the shift in the body's priorities, please comment with the word energy below. Sign number 3. Subtle changes in voice and speech patterns. The third sign is one that often flies completely under the radar. It's a change in the human voice. Our voice is such a deep part of our personality, isn't it? It conveys our strength, our humor, our vitality. So when that voice begins to soften, to slow down, or to falter, it's easy to dismiss it. We think, "Oh, he must have a sore throat," or "She just sounds tired today." But often, it's the body communicating another deep truth about its changing resources. Think of the voice as a musical instrument. To play it well, you need two things: strong muscles and a steady supply of air. Speaking relies on a complex coordination of tiny muscles in the throat, the mouth, the tongue, and most importantly, the diaphragm muscle that supports our lungs. Just like the muscles in our arms or legs, these muscles can weaken as the body's overall strength declines. Furthermore, our lung capacity can diminish, which means there is simply less air, less power, to project the sound outwards. This is the fundamental reason for the changes we hear. It's not a choice to speak softly. It's a physical limitation. The energy it takes to speak loudly or to sustain a long conversation can become enormous. So, the body adapts. A person might start speaking in a softer, breathier, or even a raspier tone. You might notice they take longer pauses between words, as if they are gathering the strength to continue. They might even start leaving sentences unfinished. This can sometimes be a subconscious choice to conserve that precious energy for a more vital function, like taking the next breath. I'll never forget Robert, an 80-year-old retired school principal I cared for. Robert was known his whole life for his commanding, booming voice. His wife, Susan, told me that's one of the first things she fell in love with. But she began to notice subtle changes. His once vibrant, "Good morning, my dear," became a faint whisper that she had to lean in to hear. During family dinners, a place where he once held court and told wonderful stories, he became quiet. He would start a thought, pause for a long time, and then just shake his head as if it wasn't worth the effort to finish. It broke her heart. After his passing, she understood. It wasn't that he had lost interest. His body was simply making the difficult choice to ration its remaining strength. The solution here is not to ask them to speak up. That can create frustration and even shame. The solution is for us to become better listeners. It is an act of deep love and respect. Lean in closer. Reduce the background noise in the room by turning down the television. When they are speaking, give them your full attention and be patient. Don't interrupt or try to finish their sentences for them. Let them find their words in their own time. And if speaking becomes too taxing for them, adapt. Use simple yes or no questions. Are you comfortable? Requires far less energy to answer than, how are you feeling today? You can even use a small whiteboard or a notepad for simple requests. You are creating a bridge for communication, honoring their effort. If you understand that truly hearing someone sometimes means leaning in and being quiet yourself, please show your support by commenting with the word "listen" below. Sign number 4. Subtle changes in breathing patterns. Alright, my friends, the fourth sign is perhaps one of the most primal. It's about breathing. Breathing is the very rhythm of life, a function so automatic that we rarely, if ever, pay attention to it until something changes. And in the final year of life, the body's breathing patterns can begin to shift in quiet but powerful ways. The mistake is not in misinterpreting these signs, but in not noticing them at all. So what's happening within the body? As we age, our lungs naturally lose some of their elasticity. Think of a brand new rubber band compared to one that's 10 years old. It just doesn't have the same spring. The primary muscles that support breathing, like the diaphragm, also weaken. This combination means it can become harder to take those deep, full, satisfying breaths. The breaths become shallower. Furthermore, if the heart is struggling to pump oxygenated blood efficiently throughout the body, the respiratory system tries to compensate. The body attempts to find a new equilibrium, a new rhythm, when resources are scarce. This can lead to some very specific patterns that you might observe. You might hear a faint, soft wheezing sound that wasn't there before. You might notice them sighing frequently, which is often an unconscious attempt to get more air into the lungs. One of the most distinct patterns, especially common in the later stages, is something doctors call Cheyne-Stokes respiration. Now, that sounds like a complicated medical term, but what it looks like is actually quite simple. It's a cycle. You'll notice a period of faster, deeper breaths, followed by breaths that become slower and shallower, and then a brief, quiet pause where breathing stops for a few seconds before starting again. While this can be very unsettling for a loved one to witness, I want to reassure you. It is generally not painful or distressing for the person experiencing it. It is simply the body's control center trying to regulate itself. I remember the daughter of Helen, a 76-year-old grandmother, telling me how she first noticed something was off. It was during their weekly phone calls. She said, "Dr. Evans," Mom's voice just sounded tired, labored, as if she was out of breath, even though she was just sitting in her chair. Helen, of course, would brush it off, saying, "Oh, I just moved too fast across the room." Over time, the family began to notice more. At night, they could hear her sighing often in her sleep, and they noticed those unsettling pauses between breaths. Months later, a diagnosis of advanced pulmonary fibrosis explained everything. Her breathing changes were among the very first clues that her body was struggling to keep up. Responding to these changes requires a balance of gentle vigilance and calm reassurance. First, observe. Pay attention to the rhythm, the depth, and the ease of their breathing, especially when they are resting or asleep. Note any patterns and share them with their doctor. Simple things can provide great comfort. Elevating their head with an extra pillow or two can make breathing much easier, especially during sleep. Keeping the room quiet and well ventilated can also help. And if you notice they seem anxious about their breathing, your calm presence is the best medicine. Sit with them. Hold their hand. Don't be afraid to just be quiet together. Your peace can be contagious. If you believe in the healing power of a calm presence and a peaceful environment, please take a moment to comment with the word "calm" below. And now, my friends, we arrive at the fifth and final sign. I have saved this one for last because, in many ways, it is the most delicate, the most personal, and the one that can cause families the most heartache. It is the one that is most often mistaken for something else entirely. Sign number 5. Growing indifference toward daily routines and personal hygiene. This one is painful to watch. It truly is. We see a person who, their entire life, took such pride in their appearance. A mother who never left the house without her lipstick on. A father who was meticulous about his morning shave. A home that was always spotless. And then, slowly, we begin to see it fade. The hair goes uncombed. The same nightgown is worn for days. Dust begins to gather on the mantelpiece. Meals are skipped, not out of a lack of food, but out of a lack of interest. And what is our first, most natural reaction? We think it's depression. We think they've given up. We think they've lost their will to live. We might even get frustrated, pleading with them, "Come on, Dad, let's just get you cleaned up. You'll feel so much better." We see it as a problem to be solved. But I am here to tell you, that is often a profound misunderstanding of what is truly taking place. While depression can certainly be a factor and should always be considered by a doctor, what I have seen time and time again is something much deeper. A natural, and even necessary, part of the end-of-life process. Physically, we must circle back to our theme of energy conservation. By this stage, the body is operating on an extremely limited energy budget. The sheer physical effort required to take a shower, to decide on an outfit, to prepare a meal. It can feel as daunting as climbing a mountain. The body, in its wisdom, categorizes these activities as non-essential. It is redirecting every last ounce of fuel toward the vital, internal work of keeping the heart beating and the lungs breathing. But there is a spiritual and psychological layer here that is even more important to understand. As a person nears the end of their life, there is often a natural and profound turning inward. The focus of their energy and attention begins to shift away from the external world, and toward the internal world of memories, reflections, and peace. The things that once seemed so important, how the house looks, what clothes one is wearing, the daily routines that structured their life, begin to lose their significance. It's not that they are giving up on life. It's that they are letting go of the busy work of life to focus on the essence of life. It is a process of releasing attachments to the physical world as the spirit prepares for its journey. I will always remember a patient of mine, Eleanor. An 81-year-old woman who was the very definition of elegance. She was known for her impeccable style, her perfectly coiffed hair, and her signature pearl earrings. Her home was her castle, always tidy and welcoming. Over several months, her daughter noticed the changes. Eleanor stopped wearing her earrings. Her hair was often left unstyled. Her once spotless home began to feel neglected. When her daughter would press her to eat, she would just smile faintly and say, "I'm fine, dear. I just don't feel like fussing." Her daughter was beside herself with worry, convinced her mother was in the grips of a deep depression. But when I sat with Eleanor, I saw something else. I saw a woman who was at peace. She was quiet, yes, but she was reflective. Her energy was no longer directed outward, toward maintaining appearances. It was directed inward, toward a place of quiet contemplation. Her withdrawal from routines wasn't a sign of neglect. It was a sign that her priorities had shifted toward rest and reflection. So what is our role in this tender phase? It is not to be a drill sergeant, enforcing old routines. Our role is to offer connection, not correction. Instead of insisting on a shower, try offering a warm washcloth for their face and hands, saying, "I thought this might feel nice and refreshing." It's a small act of loving care. Instead of pushing a full meal, prepare a small, simple bowl of their favorite soup, and say, "Would you like to have just a few sips with me?" The goal is no longer the meal. It's the moment of connection. Offer to gently brush their hair for them. Sit with them in the quiet, and simply be present. Your presence is more valuable than any perfectly kept routine. You are helping them conserve their precious energy for what truly matters in their final chapter. Feeling loved, feeling safe, and feeling seen. This growing indifference is not a failure. It is a natural part of the body and mind, slowing down. If you believe that every person deserves to be honored with dignity, valued for who they are and not for the tasks they can no longer perform, please take a moment to show your support and understanding by commenting with the single word dignity below. As we come to the end of our time together, I want to bring you back to where we started. I want you to remember Michael's story. The tough-as-nails Marine who suddenly seemed so fussy about the cold. Once his family understood why. Once they learned the language his body was speaking, everything changed. They stopped nagging him. They stopped seeing it as an irritation. And they started helping him. His daughter told me they bought him the softest, safest heated blanket they could find. And with a twinkle in his eye, he called it his magic cape. That one simple act of understanding, of responding to the body's whisper, transformed his final months. It moved them from a place of frustration to one of deep comfort, connection, and peace. They didn't just warm his body, they warmed his spirit. And that, my friends, is the true lesson for us today. This journey we've been on, exploring these 5 signs, is not about trying to predict an ending. It is not a countdown to be feared. It is about learning how to love better and care better during the precious time we have. These signs are an invitation from the body to listen more deeply, to care more gently, and above all, to simply be present with the ones we love. Knowledge is only powerful when we put it into action. So now, as we wrap up, I have one final and most important question for you. What is the one commitment you are making to yourself or for a loved one after watching this video? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be a small, simple promise. Maybe it's, I will listen without interrupting, or I will offer a warm blanket instead of advice. Perhaps it's just, I will be more patient. Please, take a moment to share your personal commitment in the comments below. Reading them inspires me, and it lets others in our community know they are not alone in making this promise. Let's inspire each other to take that first, meaningful step. And if you found real value and inspiration in our time together today, please show your support by giving this video a like. To ensure you continue on this journey with us, and never miss another video full of wisdom for our golden years, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's more than just subscribing. It's joining a community. A community of friends, dedicated to navigating these years with grace, dignity, and a whole lot of heart. Finally, I ask you to think of one person, just one person in your life, who needs to hear this message today. And please, share it with them. You never know whose life, or whose final months, you might touch with this simple act of kindness. Thank you for being here with me. Until next time, take care, and be kind to one another.